a few years ago, neuroscientists at UCLA determined that when humans are communicating, sharing ideas in conversation, that our brains synchronize, that neurons and corresponding sections of both brains fire at the same time and in the same way. So to me, this indicates that when we are in communication with one another, this is why we can pick up on information from one another, because our brains are synchronizing if we allow them to. As a medium, I rarely have this experience, but I have had experiences, particularly when I have worked at psychic fairs for some reason, when certain people are unwilling to connect, maybe because they're expecting a charlatan, or maybe because they are in deep grief. Whatever the case may be, they don't open themselves, and so it's impossible to connect. But I rarely have that experience, because usually when I'm giving someone a reading, they come to see me because they want to. So they want to have the experience. Even though it's always online, there's no difference between that and in person. So if this is the case, if when we connect, when humans connect, our brains synchronize, and if when we emit a thought or a memory, we emit an electromagnetic wave, and that electromagnetic wave is energy, then perhaps that is what is happening when we are picking up on information from one another. Perhaps our brains are synchronizing, and the energy emitted is connecting, and we're able to pick up on what is being thought or felt by the other person. And I think this extends to mediumship. I've said this before, but memory and the things we say and even the things we think emit that energy as well. And so perhaps mediums, when they are connecting with the energies of those who have passed, we're actually connecting with the energy of that person's memories. And so we're with the sitter, and we're picking up on the sitter's energetic thoughts, because our brains are synchronizing, and we're picking up on the memories that exist from the person who has passed. How does this extend, though, to present communication, to present active communication? How is it that sometimes, not always, it's usually, for me at least, it's usually information that has already occurred that I pick up on, but sometimes things will happen in the moment. There will be direct communication that is undeniable. What is that? I'll give you an example of what I mean by that before I try to use this information from UCLA to elucidate it. So I was in deep grief a few years ago about a great loss. And at the same time, I planned a trip to Eastern State Penitentiary. And it seemed like a good idea at the time. and it was. But I had never been there. I didn't know too much about it, except that it was notoriously active because of all of the people who had congregated there. I feel every place is active all the time, but Eastern State Penitentiary has that history, so I wanted to go and do the tour, so I did the tour. And I mentioned that I was in deep grief because I think when we have those kinds of experiences where we're grieving, we're more open, because we're unable to push away the pain. It's so deep. And so the pain is allowed to process, and then space is made for spirit to come through. I firmly believe that. But aside from that, we were standing outside a greenhouse, what used to be a greenhouse when the prison was active as a penitentiary. And I knew nothing. I was in such grief. I wasn't really paying attention. I didn't know anything about Eastern State Penitentiary. But suddenly, as happens sometimes, I picked up on the image of a man standing right next to me, full body apparition. I saw him clearly. He was wearing a 3-piece suit, a hat. He was clearly from long ago, but he flashed in my mind, and I noticed him, and I sensed something about him being a doctor at the same time, but that was it. It flashed in and out. I might have said something in the moment to my friends who were also there for the same reason, but it doesn't really matter whether I did. I went into the greenhouse, and it turns out that the greenhouse was dedicated to a doctor who had performed an operation on a woman that killed her. His name was Milton Schwartz. And there's a picture of him in the greenhouse, and it was absolutely the same person. And that didn't feel like picking up on a memory of his. That was him. That was his image. And I wonder if when things like that happen, when there is direct communication, however it may occur, I wonder if it's because our attention on the energy of that person, our attention on the energy of their memories, gives them strength to be able to either communicate or become present or manifest physically. I wonder if attention is what gives these energies the power to communicate. So it's as though the energy that we emit when we give this attention connects with their energy, synchronizes with it, and gives them the energy to physically manifest in some way. I think I've said something similar in the past, but it's just something that I've been thinking about lately. So I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments. And also, I forgot to say it yesterday, but I'm going to say it today. Lucy Letby is innocent. I'm going to say it again because I forgot yesterday. Lucy Letby is an innocent woman. Exonerate her.